Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
Welcome to The Messenger, a program offered by Tony Szalkiewicz, featuring messages of amazing things happening in the Catholic Church. And now here he is, Tony Szalkiewicz.
Good day, Bob. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
So tonight I'd like to talk about a little bit about Medjugorje in America, in Buenos Aires down in Argentina. That happened in '96. Of course, Medjugorje started in 1991 on John the Baptist's birthday. So with that, I'm going to try this recording that I picked up offline, and we'll play that first. Okay?
All right.
It starts off, he sat down to eat with them, took the bread, and said the blessing. Then he broke the bread.
Who's talking?
This is on Luke. This is Luke 24:30 through 31. This is what he said. This is what he wrote in the Bible. He sat down to eat with them, took the bread, and said the blessing. Then he broke the bread and gave it to them. Then their eyes were open and they recognized him. And that's Luke 24:30 through 31.
Okay, so that was Jesus, huh?
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to play this now.
Hello, this is Sebastian Mahfood again. Please excuse this temporary interruption as I ask you to pause this audio, play the YouTube video below, and then return to this audio.
So, of course, the Archbishop there is a current Pope Francis.
Yeah, did you actually finish that? It sounded like it stopped.
Yeah, it did. No, that's finished.
Okay.
Yeah. But
that was Francis.
Yeah. That to me is a miracle, really, if you think about it. So, I just figured out, in order to enhance something like that, I do have something else I'm going to try later.
That's well, that one worked pretty good.
It did work pretty good?
Yeah, on the air.
Yeah, so let me just give the listeners, that was on the internet. If you go to Google it, just look for Miracles of the Eucharist, Argentina, and that will pop up. But the mystery of that whole thing, which I really found intriguing, I knew about the miracle 1,200 years ago in Italy because the priest doubted whether or not that was the actual Eucharist, the body and blood of Jesus Christ. Yeah. Well, scientists a few years back, took samples of it. And of course, the Eucharist itself, which was the host, said that was actually living flesh, still living. And that the blood, which is a miraculous blood that was like a rock because it was 1,200 years old, they took a sample of that and they said it was type AB positive, living blood. And to compare that from 1,200 years ago to 1996, to me is pretty remarkable. That's something else, huh?
That's right.
So these miracles are being discovered in order to bring children back to God. I mean, they're not for God, they're for us. So I just found that very intriguing, very interesting.
Yeah, good.
So did you hear about that? There's a newly ordained associate pastor was really nervous about hearing confessions at his new parish. Did you hear this one?
No.
So he asked the older priest to listen in. After 7 parishioners finished their confessions, the older priest offered him a little advice. Just cross your arms over your chest, rub your chin, and try saying things like, I see, yes, go on, I understand, How do you feel about that? The new priest tried out the gestures and words. The older priest said, good. Now you don't, he says, good. Now don't you think that sounds a lot better than slapping your knee and saying, no way, you did that. You did what?
You like that, huh?
Yeah, so there's another one. A pastor, associate pastor, and a pastoral associate were walking to a meeting and decided to take a shortcut through a vacant lot. And they stumbled upon an ancient oil lamp. They laughed and decided to rub it. And to their amazement, a genie appeared and offered to grant them each one wish. The pastoral associate cried out, I want to be on an island, paradise, laying around in the sun without a care. So the genie waves his hand and he disappears in a puff of smoke. The associate pastor jumps up and tells the genie, I want to walk through the halls of the Vatican and look at all the artwork and never have to go to another meeting as long as I live. So he too disappears. The pastor, scorned at the genie, says, I want those two back in time for the meeting. How about that? So we have another thing, the miracles of the church. I wanted to get a little bit into that because we have the miracle of Argentina. And it states the miracles of the church, the website is devoted to the extraordinary miracles that have occurred in the Catholic Church throughout the centuries, including miracles of the Eucharist, miracles through the intercession of the saints, blood miracles, incorruptible bodies of the saints, the crucifix of Lepia, it's Lampias, Jesus comes alive, miracles during the appearances of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and many others. The author endeavors to be always faithful to the Catholic Church and its teachings. So, getting into this a little bit, I want to just mention some of these. There's a whole website devoted to the miracles of the church. That's what you look up, miracles of the church, and it should get you there. So some of the miracles of the Catholic Church is a miraculous crucifix of Olympia, Lampias, Jesus comes alive on the cross. In order to ensure against the self-deception, I asked my neighbor for field glass, use it repeatedly, and even 3 others lent to me, and see always the same thing. So I come to the conclusion that what I see is no illusion, but the truth. Completely calmed down, I noticed that the Savior gazes now here, now there, for a longer time to the left, and then up to heaven. They were sad glances, though someone searching everywhere for something that will alleviate the pain that is pressing heavily on his heart. There were sometimes stern looks as well, in which suppressed anger, grave reprimand, loss and shame, great grief were expressed simultaneously. 3 times in particular, he looked with terrible severity toward the left side. Once he followed with his gaze something that seemed to be approaching him, and right after, under the cross, so that his eyes looked down almost vertically, and that I saw his face nearly in profile without knowing how. He could move in this as I stood opposite to him. When the object in question arrived under him, he looked as if he would say, "Oh, wicked one," right under the cross, "do you come to insult me?" At the same time, he showed the greatest repugnance, and now suddenly the Christ made the movement as if he wished to detach himself from the cross, and as if he would say, "I can do no more." When I saw this, I nearly gave a scream and wanted to throw myself on the object, whatever it was. But I kept quiet and did nothing. It did not even stir. I heard a few words in a tone of bitterness complaint, which I do not to this day feel disposed to publish. Nor can I say how I heard and understood these words. This is the guy's testimony. Hereupon he turned his eyes toward heaven with an expression of the most intimate pleading. His expression was heart-rending. His eyes shone so full of tears that twice in particular he could no longer see. It seemed as if he would run over. Only once I saw him look comforted. Or it would be better to say that he gave a look of inward relief. And that's the crucifix of Olympias, Lampias, the miraculous crucifix of Olympias. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. I do great with words like that. What a beauty. I'm a beauty when it comes to that. So now we get into
that was something.
Now, you got a buzz? Some of these I've written this one, the incorruptible bodies of the saints. I was able to see Saint Calvary, Saint Vincent de Paul, Saint Bernadette, to name three of them, and there were some other ones in there which I don't recall right now. And it's incredible. Then I saw I was in Spain and I saw a whole altar full of a lot of the bones of various saints, and like a heap of them. So this article is about the incorruptible bodies of the saints. And by the way, Saint Bernadette, who's been dead, 300? I think she died 15-something. Her body remains in a glass tomb that's open to the air, and her body is supple like our bodies is. It's not corrupted, and she looks like she's sleeping. She's just absolutely beautiful. And she's just laying there like she's sleeping. So anyway, Saint Chabel died on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1898, at the age of 70. Having been a priest for 39 years, according to the monastic tradition, the body was not embalmed, but was dressed in a simple cassock and was placed in the monastery chapel for 24 hours. The body was then conveyed to the monk's burial chamber in the presence of his confessors and village folk, who have braved the snow and cold to witness the interment. The burial chamber consisted of a large subterranean room located particularly beneath the high altar of the chapel. Those who descended into the chamber found the ground covered with rainwater that converted the floor into a veritable swamp. In view of this situation, the body was not laid on the ground as was customary, but was placed on two planks which did not prevent the water and mud from encroaching upon and subsequently submerging it. The entrance to the vault was closed with a great stone. Miraculously, the villager who lived in the houses facing the monastery saw a great light over the tomb the night following the burial, a phenomenon that recurred for 45 nights. This apparition of light, together with the enthusiasm of the townspeople, encouraged the Escalada. I don't know how to say this one. Well, the authorities, the priest authorities, to open the tomb and transfer the remains to a grave more accessible to the villagers who wished to pray beside it. The tomb was subsequently opened on April 25th, 1899. Now, he was entombed, what was the year? 1899, a year later, basically, in the presence of the community, and to witness who had been present in the burial 4 months later. They unanimously testified that the water had undermined the burial ground, turning the tomb into a quagmire, and remarkably, the monk's body was actually floating on the mud. Oh, man. I can't even picture that one. When the body was cleaned, it was found perfectly incorrupt. The the muscles supple, with the hair of his head and hair intact, and beard intact. At this time, it was also noticed that the serum mixed with blood seeped from the pores. They placed the body in a wooden coffin that was glassed on top and carried it into a small monastic oratory. From then on, because of the great amount of blood seeping from the body, the clothing of the saint was changed twice weekly. News of the phenomena prompt ever-increasing numbers of visitors who, for 27 years, were permitted to view and touch the body. Among the men of the medicine who examined the body was Dr. Elias Elasidi, who declared on November 16, 1921, I observed that the pores emitted a matter, like sweat, a strange and inexplicable thing according to the laws of nature. For this body that had been dead for so many years, I have renewed the same examination many times at different periods. The phenomenon has always been the same. Another physician, Dr. George, why do I get these long names, Bob? Chukabahaka, I don't even know how to say that. It's Choukrallah, examined the body a total of 24 times during 17 years and declared, quote, have always been astonished to its state of preservation, and especially this reddish liquid exhumed by it. My personal opinion, based on study and experience, is that this body is preserved by a supernatural power. I didn't know about that one. And then there's the extraordinary things of the Eucharist.
What was the name of the saint?
That was, hang on, let me back up. I got it, because it's pages I'm looking at. Yep. Saint Charbel, Charbel. Charbel. I've never heard of it. Charbel. Yep. All right.
Okay, when at Fatima,
yeah,
when the sun was dancing,
yeah,
and that was the miracle of the sun. Right?
Yep. Yep.
Well, and then it rained.
Oh, it was pouring when they got there.
Oh, okay.
Torrential downfall. 70,000 people were there. They estimate.
All right.
And another 70,000 that were not on the site had seen the same miracle.
Well, what happened after as the sun was dancing, the people all threw their rosaries on the ground and to have them blessed, right?
Yeah.
And it had poured so much that the ground was like a big mud puddle. Okay.
Oh yeah, I saw pictures of it. Horrible.
Have you?
Yeah. They have them on site. I think you can get on the web and take a look.
You didn't see this pile of rosaries.
No, that I did not. No, I didn't know about that.
And they were all in the mud, and they were all tangled up. And so people were trying to get their rosaries back, and they couldn't. They were all untangled. They were all tangled up. And then two young people came out of the crowd and went to the pile, and they were able to pick out everybody's rosary.
You mean two angels? Really? Two angels did that.
And they were untangled. They were all untangled.
Wow. And they returned them to each of the people that put them down.
Certainly, yeah.
Wow.
Now
That's pretty incredible.
And it was, I read this story on the internet, and then it was verified when he saw a newspaper article later in Portugal telling about that miracle. But that one you never heard of.
No, I didn't hear no, not the rosaries. No, I have to admit, I didn't hear that one.
Apparently not many people knew about it, but it was in the papers in Portugal there that verified that it did happen.
Wow. Well, I when I was in Yugoslavia, I personally witnessed the dance of the sun over there. I was videotaping it. And I couldn't really look into the sun like most of them. And, and you could hear him you could see it in the film as I was taping the dance of the sun. There was a tree right there. And the tree would be stationary and the sun would be dancing around, flashing on, flashing off once in a while, but just moving, just seriously moving. And you could hear the people talking all through it. And this particular film, a guy had it analyzed by professionals, and they said there's no way. This is a valid thing, not hyped up by somebody. So that miracle still occurs today. I know that for a fact. In different places, because it's what would you do to you do everything possible to get your children back to yourself. God the Father would do that. He'd allow all that stuff to happen. I've got a little more information on Medjugorje too. But yeah, the miracle of the Eucharist in Buenos Aires, Venezuela, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
Now that miracle, what did you say you could Google?
You could Google, just Google what I did on my cell phone. I Googled on the iPhone. I Googled Miracle of the Eucharist, Argentina.
Okay.
Yeah, if you do that, then what pops up is there's like a bunch of pictures, and you could pick the first one. The first one usually is the round host, the precious, the body, and then you'll see like red around it, And click on that one, because I find that one to be pretty good. Although all of them are basically say the same thing. They just approach it a little bit differently through the video. So as far as the incorrupt body, so I've seen St. Vincent de Paul. Now, St. Vincent de Paul, I think I described before, as, he wasn't what I consider a handsome guy, and I was basically 1 foot away from him. Here again, he's in a glass tomb on top of an altar, and you can walk up behind the altar and around and actually get 1 foot away from the glass encasement where he is. So you're right there, but I didn't consider him handsome, but he radiated in a very strange way. He radiated beauty. That's the best description I can give it. I think there's no other word for it. I mean, he seemed to be engulfed in light. And I was kind of blown away by that. So there was another miracle. So these things, and of course, there's a woman by the name of Cruz. I believe her name is Cruz, C-R-U-Z. Forget her first name, but she wrote a whole book about the incorruptible bodies, and there are several of them. And like there's one guy, remember, he was dead like 300 years or more, and he's on a stainless steel trough, to say the least, because he constantly emits this oil that they collect and they use for miracles. He says, and his body's incorrupt. It's just, it's just laying there, exhuming this stuff. Pretty incredible. So how about that one? Now, let me think. Let me see this. Okay, let me get to the miracles, extraordinary miracles of the Eucharist. Around the year of 1225, there was a woman living in Santarem. Santarem? S-A-N-T-A-R-E-M. Are you taking notes, Bob, by the way? Hello?
No, I'm not taking notes. I'm listening.
Wow, there's a quiz lady, you know. So around 12:25, this woman who was very unhappy with her marriage. She was convinced that her husband did not love her and was unfaithful. She initially tried numerous things to win back the affection of her husband, but to no avail. As a desperate last attempt, she went to a sorceress. The sorceress promised the wife that her husband would return to his loving ways if the wife would bring her to a consecrated host. This, of course, greatly frightened the woman because she knew that it was sacrilegious. But nonetheless, she finally gave in to the idea. She went to Mass at the Church of St. Stephen and received communion, but did not consume the host. Instead, she left the church immediately and took the host out of her mouth, putting it in her veil. She then went to the sorceress. Along the way, the host began to bleed inside the veil. The wife was not aware of it until a passerby brought it to her attention, thinking she herself was bleeding. Panic struck the woman, and instead of going to the sorceress' home, she rushed home. She then put the bloody veil containing the host into the bottom of a trunk, not knowing what else to do. When her husband came home, she said nothing. Later in the night, she and her husband were suddenly awakened by mysterious bright rays of light that were coming from the trunk, penetrating the wood and illuminating the entire room. The wife then confessed her sin to her husband, and both of them knelt in adoration for the remaining hours until dawn, when the parish priest was called. That's another one that people can look up.
Yeah, I knew that one.
You did? Yeah, I think I was aware of that before. Let me see what else. I mean, these things are recurring all the time. Oh. This is the miraculous mystical voice from purgatory. Now, this is interesting here. For scarcely had the Livingston family been relieved from the renewed torments of spirits, then they were visited by a consoling voice, which remained with them for 17 years. It has been strongly believed that this voice came from some soul suffering in purgatory, who for some reason was permitted by God to visit, consult, and instruct the family in the Catholic faith. And so it was that one night a bright light awoke Mr. Livingston with a clear, sweet voice and told him to arise, calling his family together and to pray. He did so, and a mysterious voice prayed with them, guiding and leading their prayers. After the prayers, the voice from the other side then spoke to them in the most simple yet eloquent manner of all the great mysteries of the Catholic First, the Church, to which they had just recently ascended, but with only a limited instruction and understanding. One night the voice made the Livingston get up 3 times to pray for a certain soul in purgatory. And when one of the girls began to think, after all, the souls could have saved themselves and they deserved their pains. And besides, the whole thing is exaggerated, she said, when suddenly they all heard a voice shrieking, "Help, help." When asked what kind of help was needed, it replied, "Prayers, for we are in excruciating torments." At that moment, a human hand was burned into a nearby piece of clothing, leaving the space between the fingers not scorned. The entire family saw both the flame and the hand. Wow. Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to read these things. That's weird. So here's the thing, the Medjugorje. You know, have you ever been to Medjugorje, Bob?
No.
All right. So when I went, it was a family that took us in, and the mom and dad had given up their bedroom for guests. and they hosted us, So toward the end there, we gave them a stipend, which I'll get back to. But over there, we witnessed a lot of miracles. Like, for instance, on the way going there from the airport, we witnessed rosaries that were being said, and they were silver rosaries that actually, as we progressed closer to Medjugorje, they were turning into gold, the color of gold. Whether that gold, I don't know, because there's no way for me to test it. But it was by the time they got to Medjugorje, they were totally gold from silver. So somebody donated a statue of Jesus, and one of the miracles currently is that people line up because water drips from Christ's knee. So they rub a cloth on it, or they bless themselves with the water. It's a metal statue. It's pretty big, but in that one area where the water constantly comes out, they keep rubbing it, and it's highly polished. They took the original, what would they call it when it gets in, the antiquing on it. They rubbed it so it's shiny right now. Then another thing happened over in Medjugorje, that they actually videotaped an angel caught on tape. Now, I say that because I was watching these things. If you go Miracles of Medjugorje, that's MEDJUGORJE. Google that on the internet, and you can see some of these miracles and witness them because they're videotaped. A third one is a small child, maybe 1.5 to 2 years old, standing on a bleacher inside church and praising God. It's pretty remarkable to see this young kid. His eyes closed, his hands lifted, in deep prayer. I've never seen anything like that. And then they caught these real angels singing Hallelujah with 7 people, and they had a higher voice, higher than any human voice, and longer notes. They kept the notes a long, long time. Then with the Hill of Apparition, where our Blessed Mother first appeared, a Buddhist family donated a statue of the Blessed Mother, which is beautiful, because they went up there and had a miracle performed on their son. He was healed of something. So in honor of that, they donated a beautiful statue. I know that cost us a few change, because I bought one myself years ago after my wife and I had an apparition of the Blessed Mother and Child looking off the New Jersey Turnpike. I think I shared that sometime back. So, and that statue was oh my God, how many years ago was that? 20 years ago? It was like $1,500. It was like a full statue. So right now, I think there were 6. How many kids were there? 6 or 7, Bob? I forget. Do you recall that?
How many kids were?
In Medjugorje.
Oh, 3.
No, it's more than 3. Either 6 or 7. But anyways, of the kids there, they were getting 10 secrets, but only 3 of them have 10 secrets right now. Is Marjana,
okay,
Ivanka, and Jaco.
Well, that's what I meant. I thought you were talking about those 3.
Of who?
Well, you asked me how many there were. Well, those were the 3 that had the apparitions.
No, there's more than that had the apparition, because there's the Vitka, and there's a few more, I forgot. It's been over so many years since I've been over there. But Marjana, who's the oldest one with one of the all 10 secrets, she says, think about each day. She was told by the Blessed Mother, don't worry about what's going on. Just think about each day, am I ready or not to face Jesus? That's what she says. That's food for thought, every day. I always say, look, you want a word of the day, think of eternity. So there's, I'm going to go through the secrets according to this videotape I saw. The first is the first one would be a major upheaval in the world will occur, and it might be what's occurring with ISIS, Iran, Russia, the U.S., North Korea. Sounds to me like a major upheaval. The second is the illumination of conscience. Now, that particular illumination works that, from what I understand, is that you're going to see and be reminded of all the sins that you've committed. And they're going to be brought out so that you can, go to confession, confess them, and try to say prayers and do penance to get rid of those, I know that some of the people already, that's occurred to them. I've had discussions with them, and it's amazing because you get reminded of things you forgot. Lord brings them in front so that you can see it again. Has that happened to you, Bob? I think it probably does.
Yes.
What happened in the past and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second secret. The third secret is that there will be a visible sign that will remain in Medjugorje on Apparition Hill. And that's where Apparition Hills is where the Blessed Mother first appeared. Mm-hmm. It's something that we've never seen on Earth, something that could be photographed but not touched. I mean, not touched. I don't know. So then this particular video mentions the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Nothing really is known yet about those. Kind of mysterious. So then we start, so the 4th, 5th, and 6th, we don't know. And then the 7th is the first of the first severe chastisement. And they make mention that could be natural or man-made. And that could be a natural disaster or it could be atomic disaster. I don't, that's what they kind of refer to. And then the 8th secret is another circuit chastisement. And that particular one brought fear to Majana. Now, some of these, I think, through prayer and penance, can be remediated. The third secret is the same thing. Either another severe chastisement. They're coming in waves, There's no mention of what that could be. Like the second one, except for Mirjana was bugged by that one. And the 10th one is referred to 3 days of darkness. And that cannot be remediated at all. That's just going to happen. So that's the latest I have on Medjugorje. So how are we doing with time here?
Let's see.
46.
We got about 15 minutes.
Yeah, so when I was over in Medjugorje, I've had what was that?
Oh, that was my tablet.
Oh, so I was at Medjugorje. John Campbell, the first trip I went over, I was over there twice. First with John Campbell, a good friend of mine, and I shared that story. And then the second time with my own family, the girls, my 2 daughters, they were young at the time, and my wife. Oh, so what happened was the first time we stayed with that family, so we felt bad about, occupying their main bedroom and, encroaching on themselves. But there was one night that I remember where we were drinking a little bit of wine, and the owner, the father, says to John, "What nationality are you?" And he goes, "Oh, Italian." He says, "Oh, we drink to Italians. We love Italians." So then he turns to me, he says, Tony, he says, what nationality? Because I'm Polish. He goes, no. He jumps up. He says, you're Slavic. You're my brother. You're my brother. And he tells his daughter, go downstairs and get the best wine. And up came the best wine. I think we were drinking wines about like 4 a.m. in the morning. We finally crashed into bed, and we were up at 5:30 full of energy to go up the mountain where the major cross is located. And so we go. So I don't know how we got the energy. That was miraculous alone. So we're going up the hill the next day, and it's quite steep. And there's a section where you had to kind of climb over these big rocks, maybe about 4 foot high, but you had to kind of pull yourself up over them. And so we finally get up over them. We look up, John and I, we see these old women coming down. And we go, oh, boy, here we go. So we had to help each one down. I believe there was 3 of them, maybe 4. So we each put them down. And by the time we brought the 4th one down, Bob, I was like energized. It was like the Duracell bunny with new batteries. I couldn't believe it. John was too. And we kind of flew up the rest of the way up to the major cross up there. That was pretty remarkable. So
well, down. That's the idea, is to give yourself to someone else.
Yeah. So we're walking back down, and we hear this crunch, crunch, crunch. Because basically, it's just stone, pathway. Mm-hmm. And we're just saying, what the heck? We turned by, and 2 of the local women flew by us. They were walking like billy goats, because they're so used to walking up the mountain. And John and I have really basically taken our times, because it was tough to get up and down for us. And they flew right by us. It was funny. Right down to that little 4-foot thing. I don't know if they jumped or hopped or took a step. I don't know. So we get down to the very bottom, and I said, John, what do you want to do? And no sooner said that, but a group of the other people that went on the pilgrimage with us, some girl says, come on, come here, join us. We're going to go up and say the rosary. So any opportunity like that, you take it. So we sat down with them, and the first time in my life, they say, oh, Tony, you got to try the cappuccino. I said, what's cappuccino? They says, you'll see, I'll get you one. So they brought it over me in a little cup, and I took my spoon. I said, I bet you I could stick, and I stuck the spoon in the cappuccino, and it didn't move. It was that thick. I says, I got to drink that? Oh, yeah, you got to drink it. So I kind of moved it around, loosened it up, and sipped it. Boy, I'll tell you, that was great. That caffeine, man, I kicked right in. So we all got, I think there's a group of, 6 or 8 of us that started going up the hill of apparition where Our Lady first appeared, saying the rosary. And by the time we got to the top, Bob, we were sad because we didn't finish the rosary. And all of us looked at each other and said, did we just fly up the hill? Because I couldn't feel my feet moving. It was like we were floating up the hill or something. We all had this similar experience. It was kind of weird, kind of cool too at the same time, So that's a couple of the experiences I've had over there.
That was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And then so one night, and I think it was, having videotaped the Dance of the Sun, to get back to that, I said, well, that's for certain people to look directly into it. Me, just the camera, right? So this one night, I was going around 4 o'clock. The sun was out, no clouds, just bright. And something told me on the way up to this hill of apparition to turn around. And I did turn around. And there was the sun with a cross, like a cultic type cross in the center of it. And I didn't make sense of it at the time, but I stared at it for some time, which I couldn't do any other time. And then it kind of like turned and started going up the hill to say, to pray. And then about 2 years later, I was asked by Father Gerard, that was at St. Pius X Church, to be a Eucharistic minister. And I think that was a sign that I'd be a Eucharistic minister. That's when I made the tie-in for that. I said, wow, that's pretty good. Isn't that beautiful? It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, I like that.
So I've got John. I'm trying to get him on, too, to give his version of the Medjugorje experience. Hopefully he'll be on within a couple of weeks or so. So my granddaughter came back from Kentucky, where they did the Help the Poor Appalachian down in, oh boy, where do they go now? I forget the name of the town. But there were 80 kids that went down there. And the testimony they gave was beautiful. I mean, she had a major conversion. So I said, wow. And not only that, Bob, but they raised $78,000, which I thought that was amazing. So hopefully I'm going to, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have one of them on. Probably not Emily, my granddaughter, but her girlfriend, because my granddaughter swims at night, and she gets home late, like 10 o'clock. She swims like every night. She's a swimmer. So that's the latest with that. We were down in New York to greet them from the van cars. They had like 6 vans that went down with all the equipment and all the kids. It was beautiful. Yeah. Let's see, where are we at here now?
Well, there's lots of those spots in Kentucky where they go.
Yeah, they have one spot that they constantly go to. And every year they do the same. They have different people, of course, but it's well coordinated. Her particular thing was she was teaching the young kids, but she was like, well, not real young, but I guess there were, maybe 8 or 9, something like that. And but she said she was stuck in a building all day, pretty much teaching. And so on the way home, she announces, because she was very hesitant about even going. But she was a trooper, and she says, I'll try it. So on the way home, she's sharing some of the things she did. She says, well, next year, I want to do the outreach program where I can really meet the people. Because she was dealing with like what she considered middle-class type children. That's who she was teaching, because basically the very poor kids didn't have transportation. She said, Dad, she's talking to her father, she says, Dad, they have nothing. I mean, they have nothing, she goes. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, there's people that have nothing. Absolutely. She said, but they're so strong with the families and very close to the families. So I said, wow, what an eye-awakening. That's an eye-awakening for that.
Lots of miracles.
Oh, yeah. So we had, let's see, I had something else here.
We got about 4 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to share this other thing. After a wedding rehearsal, this groom approached the priest with his offering for the wedding. He said, hey, look, Father, I'll give you $100 if you change the wedding vows for me. When you get to the part where I'm supposed to promise you to love, honor, and obey, and forsake all others, be faithful for her forever, I would really appreciate it if you would just skip that part. He gave the priest his $100 offering and left. When on the wedding day arrived, it came time for the groom to say his vows. The priest looked at the young man in his eyes and said, will you promise to prostrate yourself before her, obey her every command, serve her breakfast in bed every morning for the rest of your life, and swear before God and your lovely wife that you will never, ever even look at another woman so long as you both shall live? The groom froze for a minute, looked around and then said in a tiny whisper, I do. After Mass, the groom pulled the priest aside and and hissed at him, says, "I thought we had a deal." He says, the priest slapped the $100 bill back into the groom's hand and whispered, "The bride's father made me a much better offer."
That's a good one.
How about that one? That's funny. So that's that for the evening. So Medjugorje is still going on, still going over there. I'm trying to get Bob. Bob just went to Fatima. He went to Spain, Darren Bendel, and he also went to Lourdes. So I'm trying to get him on the air. So we're still working on it, buddy.
We talked about that.
Yep.
Well, we're out of time. We'll be back again with the Messenger next week, same time, same station. In the meantime, may God bless us, protect us from all evil, and bring us to everlasting life. Amen.
Amen. God bless.
Thanks, Tony. See you later.
Yeah, good night. Yep. God bless. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.